On one of these?
Flies can be good.
Systems that are part of our everyday life, and very few people are getting to make the decisions about how they work.
I am so clever that sometimes I don't understand a single word of what I am saying.
Can you laugh?
I can laugh. Would you like me to?
Yes, please.
Do you believe in God?
I don't believe in anything. Are you impressed by me?
I am.
A Silicon Valley engineer claims to have discovered a piece of software that has feelings. He says, even a soul. A senior Google engineer who says one of the company's artificial intelligence systems has become a sentient being and was thinking and reasoning like a human being.
A Google engineer working on the company's AI development team has been suspended after claiming a chatbot actually has feelings. Blake Lemoine was placed on paid leave last week after he posted on Medium about encountering a, quote, sentient AI. Lemoine was chatting with Google's LAMDA.
This is the first time in the human story that we are in a position where we are potentially interfacing with a form of intelligence that is beyond potentially our own. And I would argue we're tremendously ill-equipped for this.
There are corporate policies.
For hundreds and thousands of years, people around the world have turned to the Bible for information about God. Two scholars, Mauro Bellino and Paul Wallace, argue for a radically different interpretation. Seeking out the root meanings of key words in these ancient texts, they find another, quite different story emerges. One with enormous implications for our understanding of the human race and our place in the universe. For more than 2 millennia, readers have interpreted the ancient texts of the Bible as stories of God, a seamless narrative in which God creates the heavens and the earth, botanical and animal life, and eventually the human race. However, a number of anomalies in the texts, along with intriguing questions of translation, point to another possibility. Paul Wallace is an internationally best-selling author, researcher, and scholar of ancient mythologies. Over the last decade, Paul's work has probed the world's mythologies and ancestral narratives for the insights they hold on our origins as a species and our potential as human beings. As a senior churchman, Paul served as a church doctor, a theological educator, and an archdeacon in the Anglican Church in Australia. Paul's work in church ministry has included training pastors in the interpretation of biblical texts. His work in biblical translation and interpretation has revealed a forgotten layer of ancient story, with far-reaching implications for our understanding of human origins and our place in the cosmos. Mauro Bellino is an internationally best-selling Italian author, researcher, and highly regarded scholar of ancient Hebrew. For many years, he worked for Rome's St. Paul Press as a Bible translator, providing with great precision the literal meaning of Hebrew words for Vatican-approved interlinear Bibles. It is an exacting discipline. The scholar must be rigorous in avoiding any kind of interpretation of the word and give only the literal etymological meaning of each word part. Mauro's findings set him at odds with the conventional expectations of the Catholic world and propelled him onto the international stage where his work has opened up a world of cultural memory recorded in the Bible, yet hidden from the public for centuries by mistaken translation and the dogmas of the Church. Together, Mauro and Paul show that the root meanings of a series of keywords in the Bible reveal an earlier layer of information very different to the story of God associated with the Bible. Hidden in plain sight in the pages of Genesis is an even more ancient narrative, one which reframes the whole story of human beginnings. The oldest word in the Bible rendered as God is the Hebrew word Elohim. But is that what the word means? And what are the implications of the translation choices surrounding this mysterious word?
Hello everyone. It makes me smile a little bit to see this Bible tower that I consulted to prepare this video. It is a real pleasure for me to be here with my friend Paul Wallace to talk together about biblical topics. I will tell you about a very simple concept, but very respectful of the way of reading the so-called sacred text. Then we will start from here with a series of short videos with the aim of obtaining very simple indication for a respectful reading of the Bible, as respectful as possible towards the ancient authors. In this way, we could do an autonomous reading and we could get an idea of what the Bible probably tells us beyond what theology has told us instead. At the beginning, of course, I would also like to give you some indications relating to the absolute uncertainty that we have when we approach that text. I mean the awareness of the fact that we know very little about that text. To develop this topic, it is interesting to read some concepts expressed by Professor Garbini, professor at the La Sapienza University of Rome, professor of Semitic philology. Professor Garbini argues that Hebrew is a Canaanite dialect South Phoenician. Actually, Hebrew is one of the many dialects within the Canaanite languages. We only know Hebrew as it was reconstructed at the end of the first millennium after Christ, the so-called Masoretic Hebrew. At that time, the important thing was not to know the linguistic structure of those texts, but the theological implications deriving from the various currents of Judaism. This means that when we read the Bible, we do not read a text that followed grammar rules, but we read a text that followed an ideological path, and the grammatical rules were not a problem for the authors.